What do one of America's biggest tobacco companies, one of America's biggest opioid manufacturers, and a man named Donald Trump all have in common? Well, for starters, they all have the same attorneys. In his new book, Servants of the Damned, Giant Law Firms, Donald Trump, and the Corruption of Justice, New York Times business investigations editor David Enrich details the history of how Jones Day, one of America's biggest law firms, turned a talent for representing unsavory clients into a political windfall by aligning with the most unsavory client of them all, Donald Trump. As Enrich notes, Jones Day had been known for decades to be a tireless and extremely successful defender of some of America's worst corporate actors. The firm helped R.J. Reynolds sow doubts about the dangers of cigarettes and helped Purdue Pharma protect its patents for OxyContin. It made a name for itself, raking in billions a year in fees from these tobacco, opioid, gun, and oil companies. But with the presidency of Donald Trump, the firm took on another calling, reshaping the federal judiciary for generations and working inside the White House to influence national policy. As Enrich writes in his book, for Jones Day, it marked the moment the firm achieved a position of a unique historical dominance in Washington after decades of swelling ambition. What transpired at the dawn of the Trump era was an extraordinary transfer of talent from a single law firm to a new administration. Joining us now is David Enrich, business investigations editor at the New York Times and author of the aforementioned book, Servants of the Damned. It is an excellent and very thoroughly reported read. David, congrats on the publication day.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
How did this happen? I mean, we know that Jones Day always leaned conservative, but it gets supercharged in the run-up to the election in 2016, and of course, once Trump is president. For people who haven't yet read the book, can you explain that metamorphosis and offer more details on the evolution of this white shoe law firm?
Yeah, well, this started years before Trump even came onto the political scene. Jones Day, under its managing partner, a guy named Steve Brogan, who is a very conservative man, started taking on not just clients, which is what lawyers traditionally do, but also causes. And one of their big issues under Obama was attacking Obamacare. They launched multiple legal challenges trying to undermine the new health care law. And the firm increasingly had become a home for conservative Republican lawyers that wouldn't have been quite as powerful at other establishments in Washington and around the country. And so in 2014, they hired a group of hotshot Republican lawyers to start a new practice that was devoted to helping Republicans get elected. And one of these people in particular, Don McGahn, would soon become a household name. And one of the first clients he took on in early 2015 was the Trump campaign. And he and Trump really saw eye to eye on a lot of issues. And I think more than that, he saw Trump, who really wasn't burdened by particularly strong beliefs on a lot of core issues.
Burdened by particularly strong beliefs is one word for it,
Yeah,
David.
I sometimes speak in euphemisms. And McGahn saw Trump, I think, largely as a vessel to achieve many of McGahn's career ambitions, which included remaking the judiciary, included dismantling what McGahn liked to disparagingly refer to as the administrative state. Mm-hmm. And Trump was very happy to have people like McGahn and Jones Day on board because it lent a lot of establishment credibility to him at a time when not very many people were taking his campaign seriously.
It is the moment when Trump sort of convinces skeptical establishment Republicans when he talks about this list of who he would appoint, right? And McGahn is the linchpin. He's the guy connecting sort of the Federalist Society and their long laundry list of conservative justices and judges to the Trump administration, and then the list is used.
That's exactly right. And it's not just McGahn, though. I mean, it's a bunch of other lawyers at the firm, and it's the firm itself. I mean, the list was hatched at a meeting in Jones Day's offices on Capitol Hill. And they brought together people like Leonard Leo from the Federalist Society and a bunch of Republican lawmakers. And that's literally where this took place. And then when McGahn becomes the first White House counsel with Trump, he then imports from Jones Day many lawyers to surround himself, not just in the White House counsel's office and elsewhere in the White House, but throughout the federal government, in particular the Justice Department. And together, all of these lawyers who had just come from Jones Day really go out of their way to really just completely reconstitute the federal judiciary in a way that is completely aligned with the vision of groups like the Federalist Society, and it is just a very different court.
And we're seeing the harvest of that on a daily basis.
That's right.
But what bears mentioning is this is not just sort of a whole bunch of conservative lawyers doing a whole bunch of conservative lawyering. This is like lawyering like we haven't seen before. The viciousness, the ferocity, the tactics that they use. I'll draw everyone's attention to an example in and around the Pennsylvania vote count after the 2020 election. Jones Day and its lawyers were trying to stop votes from being counted, not because they thought there was something improper underway. There was zero evidence of that, but because they detected an opportunity to use the law to give their side a political edge. In the firm's calculus, the consequences, fanning fears of fraud that would 2 months later erupt into a violent assault on democracy, those consequences were immaterial. I mean, they're practicing law in a way that's now become the hallmark in a lot of ways of the Republican Party and the conservative movement. But this seems like the origin story for some of that.
I think that's exactly right. And the origin story for Jones Day learning these tactics is that they, for decades, had really mastered these skills representing companies like RJR and just going to these extraordinary lengths to not only win in court and protect their client, but to just steamroll their opponents in ways that I think a lot of outside experts, and frankly, some of the people I've spoken to at Jones Day, felt were really pushing the envelope in a way that left a lot of people uncomfortable. And so you then see these tactics that have been kind of the norm in corporate litigation being brought to bear in the political realm and in litigation like we saw in Pennsylvania in 2020. And surprise, surprise, they're using a lot of the same kind of smash mouth tactics that have been perfected in the corporate arena.
It's such an important line to draw between what the law firms did in and around big tobacco and guns, and applying those lessons and those tactics in the political world. And such a dangerous, I will call it a chapter, but it could be a dangerous future for American politics. What is also stunning is calling it a revolving door between this conservative law firm and the Trump White House is euphemistic. It's an understatement. There is no analog on the left, is there? I mean, I know there are judicial watch groups of a kind. There's an interest on the left in terms of appointing more liberal justices, but there is not the same ecosystem that exists on the right.
No, there's nothing. I don't think there's anything equal to it, and I don't think prior to Jones Day doing this, there had been any equal on the right either. And this is brought to bear not just in terms of McGahn masterminding the remaking of the federal courts, but it's brought to bear on behalf of Jones Day's corporate clients who have business before the federal government in a way that would be kind of funny if it weren't so, I think, troubling in a lot of ways. And there is an example that I detail in the book involving Walmart, which was under criminal and civil investigation from the Trump administration Justice Department. And it's a Justice Department that was staffed at the senior levels in large part by Jones Day lawyers. Jones Day is representing Walmart and goes to its former contacts inside the Trump administration and does its darndest to derail that investigation in a way that left federal prosecutors, including some who had been appointed by Trump, just absolutely aghast at what they were seeing.
It is shocking and very important reporting that you have in this book. David Enrich, business investigations editor at the New York Times. Thank you. Congrats on the book.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Author of the new book, Servants of the Damned. Thank you again. We'll be right back.